Hello,
do it
hello,
live.
hello. Hello,
Welcome to
TV
the garden
land.
party.
Hello. Oh, Des popped in right in the nick of time. There she is. There she is. She almost missed it.
Welcome to the garden party, yeah.
Welcome to the garden party where we talk about our house plants, our outside plants. We talk about the moss that grow on our rocks.
The
We
foreign
talk about the
plants
algae
and the
in the
native
pond.
plants.
I don't know what's happening, but I'm here for it.
That's what happens when you show up late, Des.
That's what I get.
Oh my goodness. All right, guys. It is Wednesday. I am Texas Garden Guy, and this is the garden party. This is the garden party, and we want a garden party with you. We talk about the plants you grow and some things you might not know. Garden party. All right, Phil, introduce yourself, brother.
What up, everyone? Your favorite plant parent and regular parent. The Fig Daddy himself, Phil, from Phil's Figs. Back on the show. My favorite show.
Hi, Phil.
My favorite team.
I am wearing shorts. I'm just wearing my house shorts. They're still short. Oh my goodness, you kept those. I cannot believe you kept that, dude.
Hi, I'm Dustin Nowak. I'm the Texas Garden Guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just glad you didn't like impersonate me with like a Texas accent because I don't really have like I don't know. To you, Phil, do I have a country accent? I don't.
You have a little bit of a Texas accent.
Just a little twang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. I know I do.
You have a little Well, you grew up like north like Wichita Falls, which makes sense because you got a little Oklahoma in you too.
I don't know.
Oklahoma.
I'm a little offended.
Yeah. Well, Wichita Falls is basically Oklahoma.
Also, sometimes I just put those like Southern affectations on purpose because
Really?
Southernisms are kind of cute sometimes. I'm not gonna lie.
I do like Southern isms. Well, and if y'all don't already know, that's Des, Gardening with Des.
Oh,
she will be on the thumbnail soon. I have been working nonstop, like at work, and then like in the garden, and then big like collaborations and stuff, and like trying to get like I didn't realize how many, dude, you don't realize how many desert roses you have until you start having to bring them all in the garage. Like
I realized how many desert roses you have.
When you
was at your house, I was like, this.
And
but you know
I've
what?
added several since you've seen it too. So,
a really big one I saw.
Yeah, that is very heavy. It is a lot heavier than I thought it was going to be to pick up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, Des. Introduce yourself. Introduce yourself and let everybody know where you're from. Sorry.
Oh, I'm a wallflower. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, I'm Des, Gardening with Des. I talk about pollinators a lot. I actually won't shut up about them. I just did a post today talking about how it's okay if your garden looks like crap right now. Remember that your garden should exist in the season that it exists in. Right now, it's fall. Things are going to sleep. Just because you have a garden that's like kind of like looking brown doesn't mean it's not productive. A sleeping garden is still a productive garden. It's putting roots into the ground where you can't see them. Okay, and that's it.
Oh, I needed to hear that.
If
you really need to plant something, throw some radishes in the ground.
100%, dude. I have got so many radishes to pick. It's insane.
I got these like watermelon radishes, and they're popping up.
Yeah.
You do? Okay, cool.
Yes.
And
they're supposed to be milder. They're supposed to be a little milder.
I'm just now going to plant mine. It's so hot. It's been so hot here. Forget it.
Oh yeah.
It's hot and dry. Hot and dry.
And
the rain.
Also,
I really watched the rain go around us recently. I was like, please.
You can grow them pretty much year round here in Texas. I mean, for the most part. I mean, they're pretty cold tolerant, I guess, to a certain extent. I mean, they may take a whipping. I don't know. I mean, are they pretty cold tolerant? I think they are, huh?
Radishes?
Yeah.
Well, it depends.
Maybe not as much as kale.
They like cooler temperatures regardless. You know, anything like 65, 75 and below, 85 and above, they'll start to bolt and they might get even more peppery or bitter. Some people like that stuff, but not me. And where I'm at, and this is probably just the urban heat island effect, it just gets too hot here. Like we have our first like freeze in the surrounding area of Austin right now, but I didn't even bother to bring any of my tropicals or anything in because right where I'm at, it's still going to be above 40 degrees.
When is your first freeze?
Oh.
So our average first frost date used to be November 24th. And now we've moved up a zone. We're in 9A instead of 8B now. And so it's been pushed back into December. And I cannot remember the exact date. I should know this, but I just wait. I just look at the overnight temperatures and wait.
Yeah.
I'm bad. It's so random right now, honestly.
Well, and especially if like you have a lot of container plants like me,
Yeah.
not only do you need to pay attention to what the temperature is going to be, but you need to worry about the wind chill too.
Yeah.
Because if it's 42, but you got the 40-mile-an-hour wind chills, it can drop down to 30 or something like that. With the wind chill, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, but not here right now. No.
No, it's going to be pretty
whatever
warm
is
for us.
happening. I just need you guys to know whatever is happening everywhere else in Texas, Austin is in its own little bubble. We're doing our own thing here. It's not
like that for a lot of
like
things, not just the rain.
Around us. It's raining around us, and it's not cold here. The wind is hardly blowing. We're just dry.
My goodness.
And yet we persist. It's fine.
Yeah. No, Austin's nice. I like Austin. I actually
I love Austin.
I was going to tell you because I was talking to Brooke Knows. What was the person I was talking to?
Brooke Grows.
Brooke Grows.
Brooke Grows.
What Brooke Grows? Yeah, because she was on Enoch's. So she was on Enoch's podcast right before the Baker Creek Hobo was on, and I was like, "Oh, cool! Oh my god, dude! He gets everybody that I love, man. If you don't follow the Urban Gardener on YouTube, he does he doesn't get enough credit for what he does. Like he does a lot of production work.
He does.
If y'all enjoyed this podcast, his is way better. Like it's
different.
No, for sure. I'm saying like as far as production value goes,
yeah, he does have
it's a little more structured, and he does it Saturday and Sunday. Ours is more like freestyle, kind of screw around for an hour or two. And his has got a lot more structure, but man, he's been killing it lately. He's had the what's his name, the Australian guy, Selfish and Me, who he did not respond to my video at all. So I'm wondering,
maybe he didn't see it.
I kind of feel like there's no way he didn't see that, especially because I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe he
I don't
didn't.
know.
I don't think it was disrespectful at all. I thought it was very respectful.
No.
That was very tasteful and cute.
Yeah, it was.
I might have gone to like what's his name, Russell Crowe. Like, have y'all seen South Park where it's like showing like bar fighting, or like it shows Russell Crowe on a tugboat going around and bar fighting people? Like that was that kind of that was.
No. No.
I feel like that was too much of my inspiration for that.
But you know what's happening? We started playing Christmas music in my house, and it's still warm out. In fact, it's so bad that some of my garlic's popped shooting up, and I was like, "Oh no!"
What has?
Some of my garlic that I planted.
Oh,
I thought I was like, "Oh, it's time to do this." It's a week before Thanksgiving. Psych! It's coming up, and I'm like, "Oh, well, we done goofed on that one."
Is it not supposed to come up?
I thought it was supposed to stratify throughout the winter.
No.
It is supposed to come up, but it will bolt early if it stays too warm. Coming up is fine. It's fine because really it's the overnight temperatures, right? You want to watch those. And also your day length. But yeah, if it gets too warm, then they'll start to bolt and then which go to seed. For those listening that don't know, go to seed.
And you did the hardneck varieties, right? Yes. You did chestnut red. So just make sure
German red and music.
Yeah, I would just watch out for the scapes. Just when the scapes come up, snip them, because that's what's going to produce the flower and the seed. So as long as you're snipping the scape off, you should be good.
So great. So the garlic's doing their thing. Then my radishes are doing their thing, and then I think I put in. What did I sprinkle in?
You had me worried because I have like 200 garlics popping out of the ground, and I was like, they're all popping up. Why wouldn't they pop up? They're not supposed to. I'm like, oh no.
Oh, I thought they weren't supposed to. I thought they were supposed to like hunker down.
No, they are.
My first time doing garlic.
Yeah, no, they
Yes.
are. They're supposed to pop up right now. It'll be
Yes.
all right.
Okay, cool. You had
They
me
can
nervous.
handle
I was like, maybe I
Nicole.
did it wrong.
No,
I
this
have
is
to
the right
restrict
time
my
to do
fruit
it.
trees because you know what? Oh my gosh, I freaking love citrus. It's like a
too.
superhero just in time for the end of fig season. Citrus
Mhm.
trees. They're like, I was like, oh no, and I got a second round of main crop figs and they weren't that good. I was really bummed because I waited for the trees to mature. We got some heat. You got 3 rounds. I don't want to hear it. And well, you're like, this is the second round of main crop. So you had your Brebas. You had a third round of main crop, Destin?
I got. Oh, sorry. I got a second round. I got the early. I got the Braba and I got the main crop. I got two
Got
Braba. I got 2 main crops.
And I think we're just too shy here to get enough heat to really make it worth it because my Peter's honeys can be so sweet when they're soft. And I popped this one open and it was not. It was very bland. And so I think I'm just going to call a duck and let them simmer down for the season. Maybe accelerate their dormancy by pulling off those extra fruits.
How big is your current greenhouse?
I have a Harbor Freight 10 by 10 by 12.
Okay, that's pretty good.
It's 10 foot in the apex. So if you guys saw that post of me putting my giant plumeria in there, it's just scraping across the ceiling. And I'm like,
so you got to prune it.
That.
You got to prune it in the spring, dude. Wait till the spring.
It's so big.
Okay. It's so big. So.
I know. I saw that. I saw your video. I loved it.
Well, and you know what Alex told me? Alex told me because it since I went ahead and pruned mine, I had like 20 cuttings in my garage, and it was still kind of warm and a little too humid. So I had a couple that went bad. And so what he told me to do is fill up like a 5-gallon bucket with perlite and stick them in there, and it'll absorb excess moisture, and they'll also probably start to root in the perlite. Just in the he uses like a 50-50 cocoa perlite mix. But I just took a bucket of 5-gallon actually from Firehouse Subs, so it smells like pickles.
Yeah.
Firehouse Subs is like one of my favorite places to go, and they get their pickles in big old red 5-gallon buckets.
Wow!
And you can buy them for like $3. And I did it, and I left it in my truck for like a weekend, and I didn't open my truck. And dude, in my truck smelled like pickles for like a month.
Not hating. I'm not hating it.
It was like the strongest pickles. But yeah, so I put them in a 5-gallon Firehouse Subs bucket, and I haven't had any issues since. I haven't had any rot issues, so that may be some people out there maybe try some perlite.
Perlite is
it's
great.
Like what is that thing and you keep things dry like for like medicine, like chemistry bottles?
The silica?
Yeah, it's called
desiccant.
Oh yeah,
desiccation.
A desiccant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kind of the same thing that diatomaceous earth does in a way.
But I was gonna say,
not
Phil,
even in a way.
You should look like next spring or like going into next fall, because I know you're gonna start making a bunch of money with all your figs and stuff, so you're gonna need some expenses. Get you like a 20 or a 30 foot by 10, and then this Japanese dude on Instagram. He's a big fig dude, and he does them all the espalier in his greenhouse.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, and you can start selling fresh figs, dude. That would be so cool if you just had rows with different varieties, like especially like Peter's honey and like Smith, like the desired ones, man.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
I want to scale those. And I listened to, like, you guys don't know, a big fig influence for me was Bill from Off the Beaten Path Nurseries in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. In fact, Ross just went out and interviewed at his space, and Bill really got me into figs and cultivation when I was up in Pennsylvania a little bit before moving down here to North Carolina. And he works with all the bakeries and all the high-end stuff, and he's doing that. And it's something that I would love to emulate down here in Wilmington. And he does such heavy pruning that they just come back every year as these big bushes. And so, and the other thing, and I was really appreciating Brian Melton talking about figs responding well to heavy pruning.
Mm-hmm.
Now my figs aren't completely dormant yet. I still got a serious amount of sap flow, and people are like, "Oh, like wait till they." You can root figs in any time, but in any condition, really, they're that resilient. Mm-hmm. But the cuttings themselves do last longer when there's less sap flow and they've got adapted to it. So I'm kind of waiting for that, which will happen for me like mid to end December, and that's when I'm launching this like big cutting sale. So I'm hoping
fig extravaganza. We've already talked about it. It's fig extravaganza.
The fig extravaganza. I'm going to call it that 100%.
I
need like a
love
big Canva, banner, all this good stuff. Yeah, man. No, that would be really cool. Like if you could expand and start getting like some more like later on in the year. That Japanese dude is like doing them like super low to the ground, and he prunes them like crazy. I guess they're pretty popular in Asia. Like I guess they are pretty.
They are. I mean, if you ever watch those awesome like Asian, especially in Japanese culture, where they love the perfect fresh fruit, and they will hold out for those like. You see them like individually packaged mangoes because that mango was just like raised in this perfect manner, and I figs can be cherished in that same fashion.
Do y'all ever watch like I don't know how I'll watch one video and then my algorithm like on YouTube just goes to like all of these types of videos. I'll watch like it'll be like all in Japanese, and it'll be like 24 hours with a Japanese restaurant stall owner, and it shows like from the first thing in the morning they have their carts, and it's like their whole kitchen and dining area is like in one wagon, and it's so crazy like how they set up their whole thing. You watch one of those videos and it's like there's no talking, it's just through the whole process, how he sets up his sink, how he sets up like his stove, and like all the his Japanese beers and his meats, and it's so cool to watch it.
It's so methodical.
Yeah.
Yes, and they always have such cool looking fruit. Very efficient.
Very efficient.
Well, that's the word, intentional and repetitive. And it's like Euro Dream of Sushi, if you've ever watched that.
Yes.
Which sparked the whole Chef's Table series, right?
Yes, I haven't. I need to look into that.
Oh, you'll love it. You and your husband will eat it up, because that sparked that documentary film group to go into Chef's Table. And Euro Dream of Sushi is all about his intentional methods on where he has a shrimp person, he has a specific rice person. That rice person will only sell to a few sushi chefs because of how the rice he wants to be made, and how he does his tamping of the meat onto the rice, and where he places the wasabi is just hours and hours and hours leading up to now he has 3 Michelin stars in this tiny little restaurant in a suburban Tokyo subway stop that you would never know.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's something that's so beautiful about the Japanese culture that, like when I start Phil's Figs, my cutting season, I want to get into a system, because the system creates that efficiency when I'm doing cuttings, and so I can like control the variables and kind of pay attention to things and pay attention to how my sunlight goes, especially in these lower light days.
For sure. Yeah,
I'm in the big planning phase right now. Everything's like behind the scenes. I'm not really doing a lot of upfront fig stuff. I'm trying to lean into this season of darkness, if you will.
Yeah,
me too.
Yeah,
I'm just in heavy propagation already. Heavy propagating, because I went out the creek side, that big nursery, and I saw how they're doing propagations, and like one of the things I always struggled with was like I never have enough pots and all this stuff like to propagate for, because when I propagate, if you're gonna propagate something, you might as well do 20. You might as well do 20. Like you just go snipping up for 20. And like, I run out of those pots, they sit out in the sun in my, even in my shaded area, they start to melt and warp and everything like that. But I have plenty of those trays. And I saw at Creekside that they don't even use the pots in the trays. They just use the trays. And they're way heavy duty. And I was like, they stick 2 cuttings in each section and they're on to the next one. And I was like, that is freaking ingenious. And then just let it go. It's nuts. It's so smart. And so I've been
waiting game.
Grabbing trays. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got plenty of those.
Des, when it takes me back to like getting ready for all this winter season stuff, and like when the gardens didn't look that great. And as soon as you said like leaning into the seasons, like Rent started playing in my head. Seasons of Love.
I love it.
And I was like, oh, she's so right. And then I got the fuzzies and I was like, this is good. We're leaning into
one thing about it is that I used to freak out. I used to freak out about the cold weather coming and what I needed to do to be prepared. I would be so full of anxiety about the season changing, like bringing all the things in and then, scheduling things out to be planted for the spring and monitoring and babysitting and worrying and shade cloth and frost cloth and, all the supports for that and all these things. And the last couple of years, what's very interesting is that I've learned more about what's going on in the garden in the quieter, darker, colder, longer months with like the perennial plants. And it's really given me a really deeper understanding and appreciation for what's going on out there. Like, I used to be so hard on myself about like, hey, you have to cut back your salvia to the ground, right? Like my big giant black and blue salvia grows about 5 feet every single year. And what's interesting about them is that they have hollow stems. And inside those hollow stems, overwintering bees and things like the sweat bees will actually put their larvae in there and they'll overwinter in those, hollow sticks. And we're so trained. Yeah. And we are so trained as people in general to have the most manicured, perfect looking lawns, right? And we don't even realize that even in the brownest parts of the year, when we think nothing is growing on out there, we can have this opportunity to support pollinators by leaving our garden just a little bit messy and not trying to over control what it's doing naturally in that season. And I always try to bring this up this time of year, actually, because I never really knew that. I never knew that. And I would be so hard on myself about, how brown or how bad the garden looks.
Right.
But once I started like looking at it through the lens of like, hey, maybe I'm not using my garden right now, but who else might be using the garden right then? It's really changed stuff for me, actually.
That's really good perspective right there.
Which also goes into what you guys are doing about propagating trees and stuff, right? And why fall is such a great time to plant a tree or a perennial plant. It's because we as humans want to see those green growing things, and we feel like we're not being a successful or productive gardener if we're not seeing that stuff. But by planting plants in the fall, especially like trees and perennials and things, they're actually taking all the energy that they would put into leaves and flowers into the ground underneath the earth. They're like putting in a root system, they're growing and they're reaching down into the earth so they can come back with more vigor in the spring, kind of like we do as gardeners. Like we should take that time to also like rest and root and recharge and think about how we're going to proceed in the spring and what we need to do to energize ourselves in that way. I don't know. That was my whole thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
I love it. I'm on that same vibrational wavelength, so it's very reaffirming.
I think I pissed off a hippie like you earlier today because they had posted something earlier, and I don't know. I don't troll people on purpose, but like when I see something, I'm like, yeah, but there's a reason we do certain things, like they had said something about, they call them leaves because you're supposed to leave them on the ground. And I was like, well, I don't know if that's necessarily true, but like, yeah. And it was like, and the leaves, you're supposed to leave them on the ground and they're all this. I was like, yeah, but there's also like snakes and ticks. I was like, ticks aren't great. People get Lyme disease. And like there's a give and take with certain things. Like I remember I'd watched one of those hippie videos where they were saying like, don't cut your lawn. Leave your lawns, let them grow native and let them be 18 feet tall and let them be like, yeah, people used to do that. And then monsters would come out and grab your children and you never see them again. Like,
okay.
Like that.
Well, wait a second.
Wait, let's go back a minute.
You got to have some kind of,
what kind of megafauna are you referring to?
Well, like wolves and bears and like, stuff like that. Like we have an inane instinctual fear of things that come from the woods because things used to come and get us and take us into the woods and we wouldn't come back. There's a reason we have an instinctual fear of that,
Wait. Wait.
Oh my
Okay,
gosh.
hear me out here.
I think there's
ready?
some middle ground, Dustin, here.
Wait,
yes,
yes,
I'm
there is.
obviously
Okay,
saying this hyperbolically.
Hear me out, okay? There are certain leaves that are not the best to leave, like very thick, leathery leaves, right? They will smother out your grass. They can kill your plants. Other leaves, like the difference between a live oak leaf, which is very slippery, small, and takes a long time to break down, and a bur oak leaf, which is more like a big leaf that you would, expect to fall or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They're like some leaves leach more acidic than other leaves, but also it is important to note, it really is, that overwintering things like moths go to the leaves. Lizards, like they don't go into a full hibernation, especially in our area. They go into a brumation and they can come back out on warmer days. And that's why if we have like a snap cold front, they'll like be found in weird places, like underneath your couch cushions outside or something.
Yeah.
So if you take away all the leaves, they don't have anywhere to go in the winter. And they make excellent mulch.
Yes.
So that's not just being a hippie.
No,
that's
you're
just
good.
Rewiring the thinking a little.
Guys, we have a late comer for the. Oh, he popped out. He was here a second ago.
But I think you could place your leaves in places. Like I could mulch.
Yes.
I blow my leaves into certain areas to mulch things. I don't just like leave them everywhere. I think there's a balance, right? I think there's a balance.
For sure.
And that's the thing. And I don't, obviously keep your house clear because it's safer for fire weather, right? If you have an area where you need to be concerned about fire weather, you don't want to have a bunch of kindling like grass that's like super tall by your house or snakes that can come into your house. But if you have an area, if you're lucky enough that you can keep it taller, let it go. Leave it.
Yeah.
What's it doing back there? Sure. Nothing. Chilling. Being a home for something.
I'm going to introduce Trey real quick. So, guys, our guest today is Trey Watson. What's going on, Trey?
Oh, how's everybody doing
Hello,
today?
Trey.
What up?
Doing good, man.
Good, man.
Trey runs Leg Creek Farm, and he's also an author. And this is one of his books. It's actually really, really pretty. It's a short read, but it's really informational. It's educational, not informational. But it's Southern Orchard month by month. It kind of tells you, like here in the southern area, like what you should be doing month to month to take care of your trees and keep them manicured. So check that out. But Trey, come on in, man. We're happy to have you.
Yes, sir. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And let everybody introduce yourself. Let everybody know what you do, and tell us about Leg Creek.
Sure. Yeah. So it's been 15 years, which really shocks me that I've been doing this for 15 years. Started out very, very small. It's funny, you can really like get a lot of growth with trees and revenue when you start out at zero. You know what I'm saying? And so, but 15 years ago, we've expanded kind of what we have, what we offer, what we're growing for people over those 15 years. We really like, and I think it's probably more of a personal thing for me, is fruit trees that you can grow in the South. Specifically, what I define is like, I-35 corridor and in that region here in Texas, all the way east to the Atlantic Ocean. Trees that are adapted, because I had tried growing up I order trees like through catalogs and stuff, because I'm old enough to where there were catalogs ordering, but also where there was internet, you know what I'm saying?
Same.
So I ordered like Michigan, and I was like, man, I'm so excited. This is a really cool apple tree. I'm so excited. And then it would get to our summer here in Nacogdoches County, and it would just die. Like it was just it was like, oh my gosh, I've been entered into the pits of, So I was like, we have to do something different, because people would say we can't grow apples here. We basically can't grow anything here. But if you look at the history of it, people grew all kinds of stuff here. Like they did. It's just that the varieties and what's available to the average person out there wasn't what it was. So we tried to start this just because I was so disappointed in my own experiences. And so we started this, and it's grown. and I say it's for the South, but we've shipped to. I probably shouldn't say this because it's probably illegal, but we've shipped some stuff to Hawaii before. We've shipped some stuff all across the country, basically.
Wow.
And
That's
we have
amazing.
customers in Michigan and Ohio, and I mean they just like the trees, even though I'm up front with them that we're growing them specifically for a specific region, but they still want it and they still like it. So and there's parts of like the Pacific Northwest that have a similar climate at least some of the year, so that it works out for those folks too.
Oh, good.
Awesome.
Yeah. So just a quick background. Des is in Austin, and Phil is in North Carolina.
Okay.
So
fantastic.
Yeah. And we actually have a friend, Enoch. I think is he in Oregon or is he in?
He's in Oregon.
Yeah,
okay.
and I think he's in 8B. I think like he's in 8B. So it's weird being that far north and still being in like 8 or 9. It's so weird.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Weird. We love traveling up to the Pacific Northwest and the orchards and stuff up there are just phenomenal.
Oh man.
Oh, I bet.
It's just so pretty up there. It's like beauty overload. It's my favorite place. It's my happy place. Like if you want to talk about gallivanting in a forest, go up there.
Yes.
If you want to see a fairy forest, go up there.
Yes.
It's fantastic.
And I think that's one of the coolest things. Like when we first started talking, on your site, it has like it asks you what zone you're in because you want people to succeed with your trees. It's so important when you're buying fruit trees. Are you have headphones you can put on, Trey? I think there's some background noise.
No, and actually I am entirely alone in this house. So
oh my god. Okay.
I have 3 kids, and I tell you, if they're here, you would hear them. You know what I'm saying? So.
Phil is.
I'm right there with you. I have 3. I have my mini soccer team of Carnage too, and they're 6'3" and 1. So I don't know what your age range is.
I got this butterfly.
Yeah. Yes. No, I was just gonna say that on your website it kind of asks you what zone you're in. But it asks you what zone you're in, and like it tells you like which trees do best in which places. And I think we talked, and you had some really good recommendations. I've gotten a couple things like my blueberries, some of the apples as well have done really well. They did so well that I had to go plant them in the ground at my dad's house because they're getting too big for pots.
Oh,
they've done really, really well. And this is the time of year where y'all are shipping a lot, right?
It is. So some of it we've had. I hate to say it, but kind of a little bit warmer in November than typical. And
most of the country.
And so I'm hoping, yes. And so just now, I mean, like tonight, I had a jacket on out there, and I was like, "This is all right." This is
it is nice.
It makes me happy when it starts to turn like this. So with this weather that's coming, or that's hitting now, things are really slowing down. The things that have a hard time slowing down when you go back and forth from like look, it's 38 degrees to, oh my goodness, it's 80. You know what I'm saying? Is like the apple trees and the native trees, because they're all like, yay, let's just go and keep growing, all through the winter. So I need a little more cold for those. But yes, we are going to start shipping in earnest tomorrow. And then we'll keep rolling that through until we get everything.
Until the inventory is through.
Wow,
that's cool, man. No, I put on the thumbnail one of that tree that tractor, man. That thing is terrifying. That y'all drive around that digs up the trees. Like that thing is so scary, man. Like what is it like?
Got the blades.
Yeah, what is it like driving that? Can you hear me?
Maybe he can't hear us.
Trey. Is he frozen?
He
Trey's frozen.
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
Oh.
I'm gonna pull it up here in a second. Yeah, it is so scary.
Those crazy backhoes that have like the shovels that go around the root ball, and they just like, and then they lift it out of the ground. Have you seen that for like parks? The videos of those for like parks and stuff. They are a smooth operator. They just go in there, they cut through there like it's butter, and they just carry it off.
It's insane how well they operate.
Yes.
It's so well. Is it Trey? You there?
I'm here. I think we can blame Elon Musk for my Starlink acting up a little bit.
It hasn't gotten faster.
Oh my goodness, that's funny. No, I was talking about that tractor you got, the one that's really high up. Like, what is it like driving that thing? Like, what is that called?
I would call it a custom modified, really old tractor is what I would call it. It was designed that way. I honestly borrowed someone else's, and it was designed that way before probably any of us were alive, honestly. And they use it, and we use it to just drive. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, to basically drive through and chisel. It's basically a big sharpened metal piece that cuts underneath the roots, and so that's why it's bare root. Is basically it doesn't take 100% of the root out. It takes the majority of the root out and cuts it, and then those are lifted by hand and bundled in the field.
How cool.
So that's kind of the process, and then they're sorted based on height. They're sorted based on the varieties are in the rows there, but they're sorted based on height, and then the goal is to dig down deep enough and let the soil be soft enough and the trees be dormant enough that you can go in there and cut that out without any sort of major problem for the tree.
Wow. I'm gonna back up so I find a better picture of how tall it is. Like, it looks sketchy. Have those things flipped over before? Like, people gotten hurt? Like, doing those? Like, it's pretty wild.
They go really, really slow. Just because of what it's doing, and it'll get so if the ground is too wet, the tires are even like start spinning and get bogged down. So no, It does seem sketchy, but because it does just do the rows that are flat, like that, then it's not been a problem.
Well, I guess it's digging down too, so you're kind of anchored a little bit as well. Man,
yes, because it's going down in there and basically it slices it, but it's down. There are some videos on our Facebook page, and I have some more from this season I haven't posted yet, but it goes down pretty deep. And so like a good cut of it goes down deep enough where it's like, I'd say 80-90% of the roots are coming up on those trees that are 3 and 4 feet tall. Now, if you're talking about 6 foot tall trees where that thing is basically bumping over the top of them, you're not getting quite as much root mass as you are with those younger trees.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're kind of maxed out at when you can harvest them.
Yes, that's right. I have some really giant live oaks that came up among some trees, and I still don't know how. I guess it's going to require some other equipment to get them out.
That little cone.
They're too big. Yeah, I think we're going to need a backhoe or something, but that just kind of happened.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's so cool. And that's the first thing I saw when I saw your page. I was like, whoa, that thing is cool. It's like some Frankenstein tractor. It's so awesome.
Super cool looking.
Yes, well, it's cool, and it's fun to ride on. I mean, it's different driving something that high up and looking down at you as you're doing it. But yeah, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And so someone was asking what part of Texas? What part of Texas are you? Oh, you're good, man. You're fine. What part of Texas are y'all? You said Nacogdoches County.
Yeah, so we're in Nacogdoches County. We're up in we live out in the country in Nacogdoches County, but I grew up in this county and went to college here and graduate school here, and I've just never wanted to leave, apparently. So
are you a lumberjack?
Yeah, that's where the majority of this stuff is done at.
You're a lumberjack?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
You went to SFA?
I did. I went to SFA for my bachelor's in horticulture and then my master's in environmental science.
How cool is that?
And
cool.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, I don't know. Some people from here who grew up here were always like, I can't wait to leave, and they turn 18 and leave. But I was like, man, I love it here. I love the woods. I love the crops and the things you can grow here, and I just want to stay. So that's what. Yeah.
No,
I think I've lived in this county for 30 something years now. So
Wow. So do you know Dr. Creech up there? I think I've met him once.
I do.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like the godfather up there at SFA. He's like really he's the guy to know. Apparently, I talked to Jay White over at Texas Gardener magazine and like Skip Richter, and they're like, "Oh, you got to meet David Creech. He's really cool. Like they have like a giant like Japanese maple garden and all kinds of crazy stuff. He's got like an orchard with like every kind of tree you can grow out there. It's crazy."
Really?
Yes,
Yeah.
and he's like a genius about blueberries and kiwi and stuff that grows here too. It's pretty awesome.
And he's a fig guy too.
Woohoo!
Yes, he is.
So certain fruit trees, right? They need like a certain amount of chill hours.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that does really limit like the amount or types of fruit we can grow here in Texas, right? So what fruit trees can we reasonably get away with and get like a lot of fruit?
Can y'all? I'm sorry, Justin. My internet is acting up.
It's okay.
Like I said, we'll blame Elon. We'll
blame
Elon for that. Okay.
She was asked.
We can blame him for anything. So.
Des was asking what's like one of the best, like most prolific fruiting trees that you sell, like that does the best here
with the lowest amount of chill hours that we can get away with.
So and that is a good question. So and we could defer to Phil about figs because those are pretty good pomegranates in terms of low chill hours. And then there are varieties of peaches that have really low chill hours as well. And then the ones that I've been surprised with, and I know we've talked probably about this before, but is the apple trees that are real low chill. That's what's pretty cool.
Yeah, like I want to know about those, like because what I've always heard is that you really can't have an apple tree in the South. So I find it really interesting that there are some, and are they some that are more than just a pie apple, like something that you would only use in pies and jams?
Yes. So there the three big, to me, the big Southern apples that we deal in are Dorset, Anna, and Einsheimer. And but all of those, because I've eaten all of them fresh off the tree. And I'll be honest, I'm a super fan of Dorset. I think it's a fantastic fresh eating apple. It's like a sweet tart sort of thing, but it's not like, you know how Granny Smith is just kind of like, that one is like that. Like it's fresh, and that's what we grow the most of for our own use.
Cool.
So like for our own use, that's what we like is Dorset. I have a bunch of those that's just kind of our personal, and we talked about making cider or doing something like that with them. But to be honest with you, we just consume them. And so then Einsheimer is a little bit like, for us where we are this far north, quote unquote, it blooms really early. Like it's going to bloom early February. It doesn't matter chill hours or anything like that. So it's sort of like one of those things that the lower chill hours equal earlier bloom. That's not 100% true, but it's true in this case with apples. And so they bloom really early to the point where we can't really get fruit out of them because we're fortunate enough to get a nice frost or freeze, in March or something. And then Anna is the other one, and Anna is a good one because it more is like mid-February-ish, and that one we've had too. Even though it's kind of hit and miss here, the last few years it's been great because it's been producing because we haven't had a frost after February 15th. But yeah, Anna is another good one for like low chill. And
it's like the lowest chill hours, I think, right? It's a hybrid from A&M, right?
Yes. Well, I think I know that like Anna and Einsheimer, I think, are Israeli varieties they produced over in Israel that need very little cold and still produce apples. And so those are like the low chill apples that we, I love it when customers from Houston send us pictures of apples they're harvesting from their yard in Houston, like that's pretty
really
sweet
cool.
because that's not normally something you should be able to do, right?
Yeah.
But Einsheimer is a good one for that.
I know the peaches you sent me did really well too up there at my dad's place. I forget which one. I'm gonna look it up and see which ones you sent me. But they did really well this year too. And we keep our peaches pruned pretty low, so they're easier to pick. But the ones you sent me, I think you sent me the Florida Crest, and I think it is either the June Gold or the Rio Grande, I think.
Okay. Yeah. And those are nice lower chill hour peaches.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Peaches do really well here in Houston for the most part. Peaches do really well.
Yeah.
Well, in Texas in general too.
Yeah.
So my next question, right? Fruit is sometimes largely dependent also on the amount of water requirement it has. What do you think is the biggest bang for your buck as far as, and besides figs, but your favorite fruit that requires the least amount of water also?
I would probably say pomegranates.
Yeah.
Excuse me. We have some pomegranate trees that I have neglected. And
they love that.
Doing fine. They were doing fine in September after we had a wetter than average year, but still it was hot and dry, and I just let them go, and they did just fine. So that's another one I think is like in terms of drought tolerance. And I'll tell you, mature apple trees, like 10-plus-year-old apple trees, I've also seen those because the roots are deep enough that they can be kind of, don't ask me if I know from experience, but they can kind of be neglected a little bit and do okay with water too. At least survive. So
I think pomegranates are so underrated. I think they're so underrated.
Do too. I was going to say they have the most beautiful flowers.
They're really super easy to grow. Very
easy to grow.
And apparently easy to propagate.
Super easy to propagate too.
Yep.
Aren't they Mediterranean?
Yeah.
So like they come from more of like an arid sort of climate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they kind of go through a dormancy when they don't get enough water.
Well,
so you may not get as much fruit, but at the same time the plant will still survive. Like I've had one in a pot and I just pretend like it doesn't exist constantly, even in the hottest summer, and it doesn't care. It literally is like, okay, well, this is fine.
Some of the Russian and Chinese varieties will handle like more cold stuff too as well. Like I've got a Parfianca and I got the Texas Pink, and the Texas Pink has not died back hardly at all for me. It grows 8 to 10 feet tall every year. That they want to bush out, and it's my second year with the one I got from you, Trey. And if it wasn't for a 100-mile-an-hour hurricane, I would be eating pomegranates right now.
Oh man,
bummer!
Because it bashed them up against when Hurricane Beryl came through. I had 4 pomegranates, 2 on my Parfianca and 2 on the Texas Pink, and they were bashing up against the fence, and they just split open and rotted.
Wow.
So yeah, but
maybe one year you won't have a hurricane come through.
Yeah, we can hope. For sure. But the more you plant, the more you'll get.
Susie
asked, and that's true. And I was going to mention about the cold because, like Wonderful is a real, famous pomegranate and a good pomegranate. But even here, like in 2021 and even back in 2023, we had just one cold snap that froze them to the ground. They'll come back from the roots. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but you've just lost the growth at the top.
I can attest to that because Susie asked, like, can you grow one in a pot? Mine is in a pot. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't protect it. I didn't bring it in. I didn't cover it. I watered it a bit, but probably not as much as I should have. And that thing came back in the spring like nobody's business. It does not care.
Yes.
Yes. Pomegranate is a 10 out of 10 when in a pot, in the ground, in a drought, in a freeze, in a snow. It does great.
Yeah, and like those Russian red and the Texas Pink, both of those have a lot more frost tolerance. So I mean, they'll just rock and roll for years,
I think that's what I have. I have the Solovetsky. Is that right?
Yes.
And it's a hardier variety because I'm 8B. We just got bumped up, but we'll have one or two nights where we'll get down into the high teens. And
Yeah,
it's Salvaski.
Salvaski, got it.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I think like y'all were saying, I think they only put out fruit on new growth anyway. So I think they need to be pruned back. They need to defoliate to actually put on new growth and produce fruit anyway. And the blooms are beautiful.
They are just electric orange.
They're
on fire.
This is a new variety, this dwarf Nana, or is this ornamental, or is this a fruiting?
Yeah. No, okay, so it's technically a the Nana, the dwarf Nana is technically ornamental, but it'll grow and make little fruit that are edible. So
yeah,
really?
And those have the most beautiful blooms, like you talk about. It's amazing,
gorgeous. Yeah. It's like it's a bush on fire.
Yes,
it is.
Really?
It's like
wow!
It's like an electric orange flower, and the butterflies love it, and hummingbirds love it. In the spring, it's like one of the first things to like pop off, and the pollinators just go nuts for it. It's pretty incredible. I have pictures. If I could post them right now, I have pictures of butterflies on pomegranate flowers.
Yes,
it's insane.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
I noticed too, we went to Fredericksburg, Texas 2 times this spring, and there were tons of peach blossoms on the trees, and they were some of the first forage for the honeybees and native bees that I saw in the spring, because we went so early that it wasn't quite like we were starting to get the wildflowers and stuff, but they weren't fully in flush yet. And it was really interesting to me. And it really reminded me how important ecologically even fruit trees are to the pollinators, early pollinators. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So if you care about pollinators and you want to attract them to your yard, add some fruit trees too.
Yep.
I'm full of pollinators.
Yeah,
today.
This is a good point. Yeah. No, it's awesome. And and they help the fruit trees too. We used to have a guy with a beekeeper keep his bees on our property.
Oh,
and
cool.
And I loved it because it was a ready-made source of pollinators.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like you were saying, Des, the pomegranates are early bloomers. The peaches are typically early bloomers. Another early bloomer is the feijoa, the pineapple guava.
Oh, the pineapple guava.
Oh, yeah, it is.
And they need that pollination.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And y'all do pineapple guavas. One question I had, how do I get fruit out of mine? So I have had issues getting them to cross pollinate. I don't know what the issue is. Like I've had 3 or 4 over the years. I finally had to go put them in the ground. And my dad's got about 5 or 6 now, but we still haven't gotten any new fruit. Is there any like keys to getting fruit out of it? I guess maybe hand pollinating.
How old are they?
One is about 4 years old, and then I got 2 from you last year that are a little smaller, but they're already pretty big. And then he's got some other that were 3 gallons that are probably 2 or 3 years old. So is it a maturity thing? Like they have to be a certain age?
Have they bloomed at all? Have you seen some of the blooms?
Yeah, they bloom. Yeah.
Because it may be an age thing, but then once they bloom, they should start putting on fruit.
Yeah.
Because
maybe this year.
Kind of cool flowers. Those are some cool flowers.
Those
they
are
are.
cool, apparently delicious flowers.
And they taste good. They taste good too.
Ooh.
The hummingbirds go nuts for them.
They do. They love them. They kind of like in sort of a way, they kind of remind me of fuchsia flowers, which we cannot grow here. You can have them for 10 minutes in the shade, and that's it.
I buy one every year, no matter what. I always buy a fuchsia.
Me too. I have so much hope, and I know that I'm going to be disappointed, and yet I still spend $25 to $35 on one. And every time,
I'll do it.
There they go.
I'll do it every year. Yep.
Yes, pollinators love fruit trees. Something Susie said, I never thought of fruit trees for pollinators, but they sure are now that you mention it. And one thing that I notice of my citrus that I pull into my greenhouse every year is that the bees find a way in there, and they'll be in there in January, February, whatever, and they are going nuts over those lemon blossoms in there. They just have a field day, and I'm in there, And I'm loving it because I'm propagating or like up potting my plant, and the bees are just like buzzing all over the place. And it's just like we're working in harmony in there.
That's
And
a
it
happy
smells so
place.
good.
Oh, I
Yeah.
bet.
It doesn't smell
There's
like
nothing like all my citrus area by my outdoor shower. You just like in April, you can just like smell it, and you're like, oh my gosh, we made it. Spring is here. This is happening. Oh man. And this is like, I'm
Jasmine
sure
ain't
that would
got
Trey on just to
nothing.
reaffirm that everyone needs fruit trees at their home because it's just so easy to have.
Yeah. Yes.
But they do good for all of us, all the things that live.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask Trey about, because I know they do persimmons and native trees as well. I think you did a video for Paw Paul recently too.
Oh, Paw Paws too.
Hey, sorry, my connection is still acting up. I'm guessing the satellites are having to get coordinated or something up there.
Oh, you're good, dude. No, I was asking about like some, because I know y'all sell native fruit trees, but I've also seen like persimmons and pawpaws as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
and I'm a big fan personally of all those little native things because I grew up roaming the woods around here and over in Louisiana too, and finding things like the muscadines and the mayhaws and the persimmons. Have y'all ever eaten a American persimmon?
Have not.
I might have tried.
I planted 2 this year though.
It's about getting it right.
Eat an American persimmon this time of year. I don't know if y'all. I had someone when I was a teenager say, "Hell, Trey, look at this cool fruit that's here," and he take a big old bite of it, and I was like, "Sure," and you know, and so no, but when they're fresh, I mean, when they're ripe, they're fantastic.
I bet. Yeah.
Paw Paws too. Like, I love those. We have some that grow wild in there. I don't know. Speaking of cool blooms, have y'all seen the Paw Paw flower?
No,
actually, no. I haven't.
So if you look it up online, I actually have found them in our woods and growing them out since then. But it's like black brown flower.
Oh,
really?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
wow,
so it's like one of the more unique fruit tree kind of flowers that you've ever seen. Like, it's very different. It smells like, there it is right there.
Wow.
It's almost like a rose, like kind of like a rose shape or some sort.
It looks leathery.
It's stunning to me. I like it.
Wow. What a unique
Doesn't it
flower.
have a unique smell?
Yeah, what does it smell like?
Flower.
But
I love those.
But yes, so the Paw Paws, I'm a big fan of. I'm a fan of the fruit of those. Those don't do well after they've logged areas. Like when they have initially logged all of like my part of East Texas, all over the Southeast, they logged it. And there were Paw Paws in the understory, but then they don't come back after relogging or after replanting. They don't naturally come back. And there's places, I actually, have y'all ever been up to Caddo Lake State Park in Northeast Texas?
I have not, but I want to go. No. That place is really beautiful.
It's cool. And there is a stand near some, like in some of the more older growth of Paw Paws that are like a thicket out there.
Wow.
That bloom like that in the spring, and there's tons of them. And so there are still native patches. A native patch not too far from me where it still grows, and you can still harvest a weird little shaped fruit. And they're pretty good. I mean, it's the most unique fruit I've ever tasted. Paw Paw is, but it's pretty cool and worth growing. And we normally have what I'm going to call native seedlings, so we don't have named varieties necessarily. Although there's a bunch of named varieties people have now, and they graft and they do that. But I like just the wild seeded native ones that you get. You know, for the most part, you get something good out of them. Random shaped fruit and very consistent, usually production once they're mature enough.
Wow, that's so cool. So, what's the deal with mulberry trees?
What's the deal?
Mulberry.
What's the deal?
Yeah. So
what's the deal?
I know some cities, right, in Texas, they're like illegal to plant because they're a messy tree.
The fruitless mulberry is restricted sometimes. Not
Really?
that,
Why?
not the actual mulberry, the fruitless one. I think.
Are you sure? I don't
Pretty
know.
sure.
I if you're
It's
right,
like
I believe you.
It's like the Bradford pear. You know, the
Well,
fruitless
I think
mulberry
the
is kind of the
Bradford
same.
pear is more like somebody's preference. I don't
Well,
understand that tree. It's such a.
I
I'm sorry,
think
it's a trash
it's the
tree.
same
But
thing with same with the fruitless mulberry. I'm pretty sure.
I thought the fruiting mulberry was also. You weren't allowed to plant that anymore.
I can't see why not. Trey, do you know anything about that?
You may have to ask me again because of my internet. Sorry.
Go ahead, Des.
Oh, I said, can you still plant mulberry trees in Texas?
Yes.
Is there a certain
and
variety you're not allowed to? Are there certain counties or towns you're not allowed to have them?
I got it right here. Go ahead.
Well,
Go ahead.
So I'll at least from our standpoint, the native red mulberry that like where I'm sitting right here outside my house there's tons of fruit producing native red mulberry. That is what we like to deal in. The only other one that we deal with is long mulberry, which is the ones that have the really like, it's a very uncreative name, y'all. They have long fruit, but that are typically red. And that otherwise, because the white mulberry is kind of an invasive. I'm not a big fan of it. There's some of those around that hybridize with some of the native ones, but for the most part, we don't deal with that. I don't know what Texas Department of Agriculture rules are. I only know what they don't want me to grow any citrus. That's the only thing
right.
but
the reason about the citrus is because of citrus greening, right? So citrus greening is like a deadly disease that could decimate crops in California, Florida, and in Texas because of our warm climates. So that's why they try to keep it localized to like the state, and we don't like to import citrus here. Here I go. I'm on a tirade.
Oh, you're good.
I mean, it's really a big issue in Florida.
Yeah, it is. And we're also adjacent.
I think in El Paso, Texas, the planting and sale of new mulberry trees has been banned since 1992. It says white mulberry trees are there's that word invasive in the United States. They're brought to the country during the colonial era to establish the silk industry. White mulberries can displace native species by invading forest edges, disturb forests, and open areas. I'm going to look at TDA. I'm going to look at TDA for this, though. Keep talking, though.
Well, that is valid, though, because certain trees can disrupt natural pollinators in our area. And if we really want to focus on fruit production and vegetable production, we really need to put some emphasis on our native pollinators. So if the white mulberry does actually inhibit the life cycle of some of our other pollinators that are native to here, then it is kind of culturally important that we make sure we try not to have those plants.
Yes.
Okay, so
I agree with that.
Yours are red mulberries up in East Texas. Yeah, that's a native.
Yes.
The white one is the invasive one.
Right.
White one.
Okay. It was good to. I just didn't know. I wanted to go back to that and ask.
That's
that
good to know.
It is a really good question to ask.
No,
my neighbors behind us, they have some of the native mulberries, and I love it because in the fall, in spring, actually, it brings in all the cedar waxwings, and whenever they fly into the yard, they are so precious. Like they come in a huge flock, and they have such a unique sound to them, and they have the coolest eye mask on, and I like to sit in the backyard and watch them, and plus the squirrels love to hang on the ends of the branches, and then I like to eat the mulberry. It's a great relationship.
Yes.
If I never ever cut those things down, I would be so sad. But I can see how, if it's over a walkway, like a public sidewalk, that could be kind of annoying.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the fruitless ones. I just the wonder of a mulberry tree with none of the goodness. It's not good.
Yeah.
That's really interesting with the silk trade. I need to look into that. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, that's funny because my husband said this week he was so confused because he was like, is the silkworm a moth? And I was like, well, yeah. And he was like, well, why do they call it a worm? And I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of like the same thing. Why do they call a swallowtail butterfly caterpillar a parsley worm or a dill worm? It's actually a butterfly caterpillar, you know, and it's just like the way that we kind of have it in our brain that if you have this on your plant, worm bad for plant, so human can't eat plant. So if human want more plant, have no worm on plant, you know, instead of calling it a butterfly. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, so they have issues with blackberries up in where's P&W? Is that
Pacific
Northwest.
Oh, really? They have issues with blackberries and
are they invasive up there? I mean, I can imagine they probably are because blueberries really love acidic soil. And one thing that Oregon has is a ton of pine trees, which makes the soil acidic. And also they have cool enough temperatures that they can naturalize out there. And I don't know where blueberries are actually really native to, but that is an interesting.
Kind of that area, I would think, like arboreal, like Canada and the Northwest. So I think they're kind of native from up there.
I don't know. That's a good
question. I know blackberries are native here in North Carolina. We get a lot of native blackberries.
Yeah. Same here.
Blackberries are wonderful until you like the brambles can be a lot, but they're still wonderful.
You can get thornless ones.
In fact, blackberries are a member of the rose family.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that.
Absolutely. Sure.
Sorry, I'm on fire today, guys.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Killing it. Oh man, you're asking all the good questions, and I'm like,
yeah, you are.
Phil, you can ask the question, Phil, too. We felt like you've been too quiet. Go ahead, man.
No, I was listening, and like, here's my thing. And I was telling Destin before I hopped in, like, I'm cross training with all these other new fruit tree varieties, and this year I planted 2 American persimmons, 3 Asian persimmons, 2 non-astringent, 1 astringent. Giambo is my astringent one that I got from Anthony, the Millennial Gardener, and it has. I can't wait. I keep squeezing it every day. I'm like, hurry up, get gooey already.
Right.
And then I'm just staring at it, and then so I have the Fuyu and for the non-astringent, and what's the other one? The Giro, and so I'm counting on those. I got my pomegranates. I got my pineapple guavas.
Yeah.
And then my citrus. And so like I'm trying to cascade everything. So like and in the springtime I'm gonna have all my berries, like my blueberries and my blackberries and raspberries. So trying to get the whole year done. And yeah, that's the goal. And everything gives back. Oh, and I have 2 nectarine trees, but I was gifted them. And here's the thing: one of them he wasn't taken care of. And it went back to rootstock. This is the question I have for you on grafting, rootstock, what you use. And I looked up like it's like Lowell.
Okay.
Peach, is that right? And that it's still like a good fruit, but it's just a really resilient rootstock. Is that correct?
So yeah, and on rootstock, so like what we would do is grow the rootstock from seed, right? But if you had a tree that grew out and had the rootstock came up, you can totally graft into it in the I'd say late winter, early spring with no problem. And it should be a good rootstock unless you wanted to let it grow out and see. Our one that we use for peaches and nectarine primarily is going to be Nemagard.
And then I had a question about that. Was that fruit for you, or is that not really a type of fruit?
It makes like inedible hard little fruits.
And that's just to protect from like root knot nematode?
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And it's effective. They've never overcome whatever. They haven't evolved to overcome it yet. So it still works.
Nice.
So.
You had some nematode issues, right, Phil? That was one of the things.
I had some, and I can amend my soil enough to crowd them out. And that's the transition. But the one nectarine tree that I got, it wasn't Nemagard. It was like some other variety. It was like started with an L, a Lovell.
Yes.
Okay. It stated that on the card. And so I think they both are that. And I don't know. I think it's just better for wetter climates, it was telling me when I looked it up.
Yes, and more resilient. Yeah, that's right. And more resilient to wet soil and things like that.
Which we need here in coastal North Carolina.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, what do you do with your citrus trees? I have 7 or 8 beautiful, big, healthy citrus trees out in containers. And
Yeah.
every single winter, it's back and forth in my heated office,
Mhm.
back and forth.
Same.
And I'll be out there at 10:30 at night. I don't know. It's going to get down to 25 at night. Here I am.
Yeah, no, I'm outside with you in the 20s,
Okay, so
being
you
like, what
are?
am I
Mhm.
doing?
All right.
Am I
Same.
the weird neighbor that does this stuff in the middle of the night?
Exactly. Yeah.
I just
Exactly
crowd
right.
mine into the greenhouse,
This
and then I just have to climb around them.
In my
That's what I do.
greenhouse, I have a little plant ICU that I kept some in, like, because I had a Kimbru Satsuma. So I'm growing all the hardy ones. I have an Awari Satsuma, or a Frost Satsuma, sorry, that I do the incandescent lights. It's on the south side of my house, and I put a frost bag over that, and it made it the whole winter unaffected. Got down to 18, and with the incandescent and the frost bag, south side of the house made it. It hasn't fruited yet. It's smaller than the other ones. The other ones, I have a variegated Eureka Lemon, who's my diva of my property. She's such a weenie, and she'll complain about everything. But her leaves smell great, so she can just stay for that. I have Yuzu, which apparently can make it way down to like 5-10 degrees.
Yes. Okay.
I have a trifoliate grapefruit hybrid that apparently I left out the entire winter, and it made it.
Okay.
Wow.
It looks like trifoliate, but apparently it fruits that it's similar to a grapefruit, and it's edible.
That's pretty sweet.
It's
That's
pretty
really
sweet.
cool.
The other, I have Brown Select and Kimbru, which are my Satsumas.
You have a lot of citrus, dude. Jeez.
I stacked up in the past year and a half, and I slowly accrued stuff. I worked with the Hobby Greenhouse Club. We hosted Stan McKenzie from McKenzie Farms in South Carolina, and he came and spoke about, he specializes in hardy citrus. And he talked about how all his methods and techniques. And then my friend Meg Shelton, who's fourth generation Shelton Herb Farms here in Leland, North Carolina, in Wilmington, she has some citrus too that she sells, and I picked up a blood orange too, a Sanguielli blood orange. Yeah. I don't know, that was an impulse buy because I'm Italian, and I don't think I have to really care for it. But yes, some of these will be in my greenhouse. I keep them on a patio area next to my garage, and so if I need to, a short trip to just throw them up that 6 inches into my garage door, through my garage door, and take them out if need be.
Yeah, I wish I could do that. I can't do it. I don't have the space.
So I've got all my citrus except for 2 of them are in those rolling planters from Vigo. They are a little expensive, but if you're going to have citrus in a container for a long time, it's kind of worth the investment because they don't really rust out and everything. But you could easily 100%. They make those little caster mover little things from Harbor Freight or whatever, and you could just use those to move your stuff in and out. Or I've even seen where people will build a little cart to sit all their citrus on so they can pull them in and out of their garage. But mine for the most part stay in my. I put them in my greenhouse last fall, and I just didn't bring them out of the greenhouse because I take the plastic off, you know, and put a shade cloth over it. So
it's beautiful.
I mean, honestly, I could just plant them in the ground in my greenhouse and just have the greenhouse around it, and just like we were talking about earlier, Phil, regenerative prune that thing. I'm not going to live here. I'm not going to be in this house forever. I want to take those plants with me
just
and then
dig it up.
That's what you should do with your plumeria. Just bury it in the ground.
I believe in France, in maybe Versailles. Don't quote me on this, but I think they have an
never
orangery.
been.
I haven't been either.
I have.
They have
I've been to
orangery,
Versailles,
and they have giant crated trees on wheels, or they dolly them out.
Yeah, it's like an
and
endeavor.
They're huge, and that's how they would have fresh citrus. Look into that. I find it really fascinating what European cultures like France and England and stuff used to do in order to have fresh fruit in the aristocracy. It's really interesting, truly. And then, when those things were in bloom, especially the oranges, it was just like this effervescent, decadent smell that they would get to experience, but you couldn't do that if you were me.
Commoner.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I'm outside in the
I'm not sure if y'all have encountered this before, and maybe you have, Trey, with like all of your. I mean, I don't know how many acres you have, but I'm sure it's a lot. But with my, I've gotten my calamund. So in my greenhouse, I've gotten my. I put my loquat in one of those rolling containers so that because loquats will handle the cold, but they fruit and flower when it gets cold. And if there's a freeze, they'll drop the fruit. So I've got my loquat in the ground or in a container in the greenhouse. And then I've gotten my calamundan and then my Persian lime and then my variegated lemon. Well, my calamundans and my key limes or my Persian limes have cross-pollinated. So now all my calamundans are green and they taste sour. It's so wild. It is so weird. They don't turn orange anymore. It's been 2 years and they don't turn orange anymore. It's so weird. But they're ripe. They're completely ripe and like, but they taste a lot more sour because they're right there next to those Persian limes. It's so weird.
That's interesting.
It is so strange. It sounds like you need a greenhouse, Trey. You need a big old greenhouse, dude.
You do.
And it's Parkinson's law. So it's like when you buy the greenhouse, you will fill it up with all.
Oh, immediately. Right. Mine was immediately overfilled. I knew the second before I even clicked the buy button, I knew I had outgrown it.
Yeah, it's
you hit the buy button, you're like, I have to do that again.
Goodness.
Do y'all have some high tunnels or anything like that other Trey, or y'all just do everything in the ground out in the open?
Pardon me.
Trey, you hear me?
I'm gonna turn my video off again.
Okay, you're good. No, I was asking, do y'all have a greenhouse or high tunnels or anything, or do y'all do any of that out there?
Sorry, I'm not hearing you very well. It's all on my end, I'm sure.
You're fine, dude.
Rural internet.
You have to go to Starbucks next time, okay?
Well, I keep turning off my video, thinking maybe it'll catch up.
And my internet's not great either, so it's all right, man.
I got that fiber. I'm basically at light speed.
Yeah, it's in 2024. I don't even have fiber, so I'm not too far advanced from Skynet or whatever what is it called? Skynet,
Starlink.
Starlink, yeah.
Starlink.
Skynet's if you can't get Starlink, you get Skynet.
And I'll be honest with y'all, Starlink is so much faster than what we had before. Like,
yeah.
This is like blazing fast compared to what we used to have.
That's so cool.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, for like $120 a month, it's about 10 times or 20 times faster than what we used to have. So that's we had to do it. So
yeah, so you're out in the middle of nowhere. Do y'all have a greenhouse or like high tunnels or anything like that?
Say that one more time, Destin. Sorry. Yours is the one cutting out right now.
I believe it. I believe it. No, I was saying, do you have a greenhouse or a high tunnel, or how do y'all do it out there? Do y'all just grow everything in the ground? And y'all graft everything, or what do y'all do?
Yeah, it's mainly all of our stuff is grown in the ground. We've looked at greenhouse and we've looked at doing some stuff with that, but mainly I'll be honest with y'all, we cannot sell due to the citrus greening disease and other things, any citrus, because we don't have the facility for it. The Texas Department of Agriculture found a relatively old picture and came out and had a visit with us to make sure we weren't selling any, which we're not.
They're so serious.
Oh yes,
they will jump on you about this citrus,
but at least that's a good thing, though. It's a good thing.
So actually,
yeah,
it is.
Yes,
because
it is.
Yeah, we need that actually. I have a whole tirade. I do.
I had to prove to them all mine in containers were not for sale. They're so we can have fruit, fresh citrus, this time of year into December, and they were fine with it. But for citrus or something like that, I'd be tempted, but I'm not going to get into that right now. And all the temperate stuff will usually do just fine growing out in rows in the ground and digging them like we saw earlier. All of that will typically be okay. Figs are the one thing. Speaking of figs, Phil. The one thing that, man, when we hit those like 8 degrees or like even like in 2021, I had stuff moved inside different places, like because I didn't have a greenhouse that was big enough to come because we lost you know, a 20-year-old, I'm not lost, died to the ground, a 20-year-old fig tree, because it had never had any experience with that kind of cold. And then suddenly it's dead to the ground. And then it happened again last year. So I was like, well, we might need to look at getting something. And I have an old frame that we're going to work with and see if we can get some of that stuff moved into there so that we at least don't have, I'm not trying to fill everything up with citrus and figs as we try to like keep them alive for folks, before we send them, because if it happens again, it's been mild so far, but all it takes is once. So
it only takes one time. You know, figs are funny. Like I don't even worry about figs, if even potted figs, unless it's dropping below like 20 degrees.
Okay.
And a lot of my stuff just stays outside. And I think they just want consistency. Like they want to be consistently cold. Like if the yo-yo, like my biggest issue is my last frost is April 1st. And so they will wake up with not just heat, but sunlight. And if that combination is right, they'll wake up like the third week of March. And thank the Lord, like we didn't have a freeze April 1st this year, because I had 3 weeks of growth happening before that date. And I don't like that, right? Because March is just a capricious month. You don't know what it's going to do. And then if they're used to cold weather, they will adapt. And like there are some hardier varieties. Like I don't know which varieties you're growing, other than I saw you had your Texas Blue Giant and you had your Alma, which are very Texas-oriented figs because Alma was cultivated there. But try looking into those Mount Etna figs that will be resilient, that will produce for you on new growth if they die to the ground every year. There's some really great varieties like your Hardy Chicago's, your Marseille Black VS strain. That Norella is another one that Ross has been talking a lot about too, Ross Ratty. And those varieties will die back to the ground and they'll come up every year and they'll give you fruit and you won't have to sweat it at all.
Okay, well, and that is good. We'll look at those. One of the ones I lost a whole bunch of a couple of years ago is LSU Purple. That one,
really?
That one is just even. I think it has to grow further south than where I'm at. Is what it amounts to.
Yeah.
Are you? What zone are you?
We're in zone 8. I would say 8A or B. It kind of cuts across where we are.
Got it.
In this part of East Texas, it kind of winds down and then heads west. But it, for whatever reason, those things, I had several years of, you know, it would be typical for us to get down to 20, 25 in some years here, like consistently. And I would lose them every time. It took about 2 or 3 years for me to get smart enough to be like, not these anymore. You know, like no more.
Yeah.
Right.
We can't do this because they were really, you know, customers want these trees and we're shipping them. And then as we're shipping them, we're like, that doesn't look right. And scratch it like, oh my goodness, it's dead. You know,
Oh,
so,
no.
refund them the fig because the fig is dead now. So, and even if it's not dead, if the top is dead, a customer doesn't want to receive a dead stick with live roots typically. So,
right. Agreed.
That's not what people are paying for. So we had to go.
You want to like sell to people with like, I appreciate you saying that, with like a leveled up product. Like here, we have set this up for success for you.
That's
rather than
exactly
like,
right. That's
here, put this in your plant ICU and hopefully it'll make it. That's not the same deal.
In 5 years, it'll be the size this one was going to be before it got frosted. You know, like that's just,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, and that's why anytime there's going to be a hard freeze, I just go out there and I turn to Edward Scissorhands. I just start cutting back like crazy. I'll band them and throw them in the fridge. And then that way I don't have to do them all that night. But then it's time to get propagating. You know, Phil's had propagations in the fridge for months and they just start rooting in plastic bags. Like it's so crazy.
I love that. That's super cool.
Yeah, it's so wild.
I literally just put a mini fridge in my garage so I can start doing that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, like I took a bag of cuttings and I was like, I kept neglecting them and I was like, oh, I'll get to you tonight. And like family thing comes up and it's like a month goes by and I was like, oh no, that bag of cuttings. And I look in, I'm like, oh no, it's so wet in here. And I was like, wait, there's roots. And like half of them had little roots on them. And you just kind of run with it. But
I love it.
But the other half did not. But the
nature will find her way.
Yeah, nature finds a way.
That's right.
She sure
I've got some Barbados cherry cuttings in my fridge that I forgot about And I think I could probably still propagate them, but it's probably a 50-50 shot as long as they're cool and moist. It's kind of humid in my garage a little bit with all the plants and everything, so we'll see what happens. I'll try them. But that Barbados cherries are pretty easy one to propagate. It's just not cold tolerant at all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, like, I don't. The other thing I do it too is like apple trees, and I'm running out of space now. I need to like figure it out where I have to get strategic, and it's like this like puzzle piece. I'm like, where can I get away with that? Can I get away with this? How big is that gonna get?
Oh boy, gardening.
Yeah, and apples. I mean, I think he does quite a few of his on dwarf fruit stock, and so they don't get as crazy. But an apple tree can't be in a container forever, no matter what. I mean, it's got to go in the ground eventually.
Right. I mean, that's why citrus and figs are awesome because they can be in containers forever.
Oh yeah, citrus for sure.
Yeah.
Somebody behind you, Trey, it scared me.
You're not alone anymore, Trey.
That's exactly right.
I'm saying, please tell me that's your daughter. That's your daughter, right?
Hi.
Let's make sure there wasn't like an intruder or a ghost behind you.
She was there, so y'all said that.
Oh my goodness.
Y'all thought
Trey,
I might be about to get murdered on a live
dude, I know.
No.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, I know your house is about to get loud, Trey. This is usually when we wrap up past Phil's bedtime. Real quick, Trey, I put your links and stuff down in the comment section for your website and everything, and I even put your Amazon link for your books because you have quite a few books actually.
I do. I love the Southern gardening kind of thing because I think it's such a unique region to grow in, and I love writing about that and stuff. So yes, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man, and you self-publish, right? You do all the legwork for this kind of stuff.
No pun intended.
That's right.
Make sure to go check out Trey at Leg Creek Farm. Was it legcreekfarm.com? He has trees available for sale, and you ship them bare root. And I kind of like that you ship them bare root because it makes it, well, one, it's cheaper. It's cheaper to ship them, and also it makes it easier to plant. And like the first time I'll tell you this story real quick. So the first time Trey sent me a plant, he's like, "Hey man, I got a bunch of pomegranates like that." I was like, "Whoa, cool! I've never grown a pomegranate before." And he's like, "All right, I'm gonna shoot it to you. It's gonna be a bare root." And I was kind of still new, and I didn't realize like how big it was gonna be. And like it was a decent sized tree, and it had like Texas pink pomegranate. It was bare root. It was wrapped in wet newspaper, and I was like, "Okay, I gotta get this thing in the ground." And it was probably this time of year, like 2 years ago, I think, that you sent it to me. And on a little sticky note, it said, "Watch out for thorns." Because I had no idea that pomegranates had thorns. Yeah. And as I see the sticky note, it's like in my hand, I'm like, ah! But like, it wasn't your fault. It was my fault for not looking for the sticky note. But like, I didn't realize how big thorns get on pomegranates. They get huge, man. They get nuts. Oh, they get gnarly, dude.
Yeah.
But that tree took off like wildfire, and it is right now. It is probably, after I pruned it like crazy, it's still like 10 feet tall. Like it is, It is huge. It is doing so good, and I know next year I'll leave it higher to where I can actually get some fruit. It won't bang up against the fence. So
there you go.
I highly recommend the pomegranates and the feijoas, the strawberry pineapple guavas. So thank you very much, Trey. Your Leg Creek Farm on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, all that good stuff. And I put your links down below. Anything else you want to tell people? We'll lose you again. We lost Trey again. You're back. Damn you, Elon Musk.
Doge.
Let me go to Bastrop and tell him
Dustin,
what's
thank
up.
you for having me, sir, and thanks for promoting all that too.
Oh no, man! Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. We'll have you back. Like I said, we'll make you go to a Starbucks or something next time. Give you some free Wi-Fi. But it's all good, dude. Thank you very much for being here. Des, real quick, let everybody know where they can find you. What you got coming up?
Hello, you can find me Gardening with Des on all platforms. And lately I've been posting some encouraging quotes about gardening and just reminding you to be gentle with yourself in the fall season and appreciate and honor your garden in the season it exists within. Treat yourself gently and happy gardening. And I'm definitely going to be posting some fall gardening stuff soon.
Fantastic. It's the best time of year to plant your garden and to plant a tree. The best time of year to
plant some trees and some perennial plants.
Please. Phil, let everybody know what you got going on, what you got coming up.
Oh man, I am doing all the back end stuff to get ready for fig cutting season, which is probably about a month out right now. And then I will be propagating.
Fantastic, dude. It is best time of year to propagate too. If you have places to overwinter stuff, like a greenhouse or a garage. So
or a closet.
Or a closet.
I've done it many times.
Well, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate everybody being on. Hopefully we'll back next week. We got our Thanksgiving episode next week with Garden Marcus. Get ready to be crying. We're all going to be crying and emotional. the last time
if you want to be inspired.
The last time Garden Marcus was here, we were all in tears by the end of the episode in a good way.
Yeah.
In a good way.
We might inspire you to hug a tree. This is normal.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Well, thanks again, Trey. Appreciate it, man. We'll get you back on sometime and hope everybody has a great weekend. And we'll see you next week, guys. Thank you so much.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you. Y'all take care.
See you later, Trey.
Bye.
Thanks, buddy.